What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
In today's video, I'm calling it When I Could Have Been Seduced in LA. Story time with P&M. Make sure that you have gone and checked out our Storytime with P&M playlist, where we share stories that we feel like have impacted our lives. They've been significant, and oftentimes they, what would you call it? They embody things that would hopefully be impactful to you guys in your lives.
Yes.
Relatability, encouragement.
Yes.
You get it?
All right. Well, first, before we get into story time, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. We risk giving TMI.
To help you navigate DMI, dating, marriage, and intimacy.
I got my little sumo wrestler bun today. It's called the I didn't have time to wash my hair, and I really desperately needed to. Hairdo.
I mean, it kind of makes me want to do this. All right, guys. Also, real quick, shout out to our patrons. I'll be honest, like this week in particular, something that's been on my mind is, I'm not going to get into it, but we've had brand deals canceled because our haters reach out to them. It's been a challenging road there, and our patrons are a very big element of stability for our channel, us being able to make this content, and we greatly appreciate them. If you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Paulandmorganshow. The link is below. All right, Morgan, let's get started with this story, where it all began.
Okay, yes. Take us back. How old were you?
Okay.
What was your hair like?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I have a
We
picture.
should have gotten
No, I have a
pictures.
picture. I have a picture on my phone that I can just hold up to the screen because I
alright.
forgot to pull it in.
Yeah.
All right. It was 2010. I had just finished.
13 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, you old boy.
I had just graduated. No, I had not graduated. I had finished my sophomore year of college, so it was that summer. And real quick, I do just want to say, as I was like preparing the title, the thumbnail, thinking through like, do I want to share this story? Part of me was like, you know, it's kind of edgy. It's so forth. But then I really did, as I talked to Morgan, I was like, I do think this story, you know, most of you guys probably won't have the exact same type of situation that I was in, but some of you will likely. Some of you will have elements of it, and there definitely is teaching moments from this story. There's encouraging moments. So I really hope that it encourages you guys and gets you thinking for what might come to pass. So yeah, summer after sophomore year of college, I get into a little modeling, and I end up via a local modeling agency, Morgan, heading out to Los Angeles for the first time to do a modeling convention.
Yes.
You ever heard of a modeling convention?
Oh, haven't we all heard of modeling conventions?
You're no stranger.
Scams.
You're no. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that for this particular one,
Yeah,
but
this one that you went to sounds a little different than the ones that I've heard of.
nevertheless, this was at a very massive hotel in Los Angeles, Hollywood area, and it was really something. Before heading out, I was actually talking to someone who was an acquaintance from my local modeling agency who had gone maybe 6 months prior to, or it may have been like a full year prior to a different or the same modeling conference in Los Angeles. And I was like, dude, so tell me about it. You know, how did your experience go, so forth? And he said, well, guess what, Paul? Like, I'm not a virgin anymore, and I actually lost my virginity at this modeling conference. And he was saying it kind of like, dude, just like anything can happen at this modeling con. You're surrounded by other people that are, there's a lot of models there, actors, aspiring. You know, it's an aspiring model, aspiring actor. You're hoping to get picked up by an agency, an agent, and so forth. It's one of those type of things. He was like, yeah, I'm no longer a virgin. It was a wild time. And I'm listening to that like, man, you know, that's a shame. But this guy's not saved and so forth. But that was in the back of my mind going in. It just was, you know, it's just something that kind of a conversation that sticks with you.
Okay.
So I get there, and it maybe was literally on the first day, because this conference lasted maybe 3 or 4 days. The first day, you're just kind of rubbing shoulders. Everything's new. You're doing some modeling events. Yes. And I met a girl from Puerto Rico that was doing this thing. There was a big group from Puerto Rico there, and we start talking and just, whatever. The next
hit it off.
I kind of hit it off.
There are good vibes.
I'm sophomore.
She's pretty.
Sophomore in college, just graduated, so forth. It was innocent, and we started just kind of talking, and then maybe day 2 we talk more. We're getting to know each other more, and she friends me on Facebook, and so we're kind of talking a little bit after hours, just innocent, but just getting to know each other. It was fun.
Okay.
The last night, it was, I want to say maybe night number 4, and we, it was a really cool, all right, let me just pull up a picture real quick, just for visuals, not of her.
Oh,
I wouldn't do that.
That's good.
I wouldn't do that.
Oh my goodness.
But here was an outfit I was wearing. They did a fashion show on maybe the last day.
What in the heck?
What? No, that's a good shot. That's a good picture.
Of the gloves and the belt are what gets me.
I should have pulled this actually in to just a little bright there.
Yeah.
Turn the brightness down a little bit. I think it's a good shot. Anyway, it's always nice to have visuals. So the final day comes around. It's like the final day. There's going to be, you're going to go to sleep and then fly out the next morning.
Yes.
And everybody's just kind of hanging out, having a good time. People are going out to eat, going to, whatever. And I'm with the group up on the roof where there's like a pool and stuff. And we're all just hanging out, and she's there, and we're just chatting it up and so forth. Probably is like 11:30 p.m.
Okay.
And I just know in my heart, and I'm a Christian, you guys. I'm walking with the Lord, but this, anytime you kind of are pulled away from your normal routine, your normal community, there can be more temptation, more challenges.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, staying grounded.
Yeah.
I'm starting to kind of get in my mind, okay, probably time for me to go ahead and just call it. We're having a good time and whatnot, but I'm going to go and call it. So I kind of wave to the friends that I've made, and lastly to her, I say, it's really good meeting you. Hopefully we'll continue to touch base, online and whatever. I'm going to go ahead and head out. And she says, and she says, well, let me come, I'm going to come with you. And I'm like, my antenna's up. I'm like, all right, sure, we'll take the elevator. So we head back. We get in the elevator, and I push my room number. And so we start heading down, and we're still kind of talking and whatever. And then the elevator stops on my floor.
Was she on your floor or no?
She was on like a floor above mine or below mine. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
But it stops, and I'm about to head out, and she, if I'm remembering correctly, kind of grabs my arm and pulls me back into the elevator and says, come to my room. And in that moment, it's someone that I do, have an attraction towards.
How?
We've had, and this was another detail, and this was something that I hope sticks with people, and I made a note of this. Prior to that, because my Christian faith is it's at the center of my life at that time, and still is, I remember asking her when we were chatting on Facebook, I said, I'm a Christian, this is a big deal to me, and she
said she was a believer.
She did.
Of course she did.
She said, I love God too.
No, that was my line on Tinder.
See, that's why it didn't mean much until I...
Shut up.
You got to prove it.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
okay, very interesting. So she pulls your arm. She's like, Come to my room.
I had that. I had that as an excuse, if you will. Like in the back of my mind, I had the Christian box
so
checked.
Like, she's a Christian, so she's not like asking me to come to our room for.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh.
But if I wanted to use that as an excuse, because so many of us, it's kind of like, yeah, that we want to, we're not going to be interested in someone unless they're a Christian, and then we justify or we make whatever. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yes. Okay.
It's like if she had said, "Oh, I'm a Satanist," I probably would have been like, But Christian's like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it. It was just her writing back on Facebook. Whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, in that moment, she kind of tugs him arm and says, "Come on, just come back to my room. Like we're having a really good time." And in that moment,
little did she know this boy had never even kissed a girl.
You're right. But in that moment, I've got my friend, my acquaintance from back home in my mind of, Paul, like I lost my virginity on this trip.
Yeah.
You got the stuff going through your head of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And that could be something,
Were you in Vegas?
No, it was Los Angeles, but the principle remains. What happens at a modeling conference.
Gotcha, yes.
In Los Angeles.
Yes.
I say, I tell her, I turn to her, she's kind of got my arm, and I say, no, I'm going to go back to my room. And she really was like, you kind of pushing, Paul, come back, come on. Like, it's the last night, come back to my room. And I said no. And we parted ways, and I went back to my room.
Then, later, she comes knocking on
No, stop. Stop.
I'm kidding.
But a couple things, Morgan, and any comments you have. And I do want to share a couple other things that also happened at the modeling conference, but just real quick to encourage you guys. Mm-hmm. If really almost any Christian that is kind of in the dating phase, they know that in the Bible it talks about saving sex for marriage.
Right.
And they're all kind of would at least say, yeah, like I want to do that too.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, how firm do we truly, like how convicted are we truly that we are going to obey God? Because in moments like these, and again, I think a lot of you guys have had moments like this or will have moments like this on some level, you're going to have to decide in the moment, am I going to truly obey God? Or there's a passage where it talks about Moses and it says that he, let me see if I have it. He chose to obey God rather than, or he chose to something rather than enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. That could have been an hour of pleasure and sin. Mm-hmm. Or you can choose to obey God's word. And so for you guys, like how much are you going to say, I'm just going to choose to obey God? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and be blessed by obeying the Lord's word rather than a fleeting moment of satisfaction that really actually carries a lot of baggage and issues and yeah.
Well, and that's another thing is you could have had in your mind let's live while you're young. You're away from your family, you're in Los Angeles in this crazy cool environment, save responsibilities for later, blah, blah, blah. But I wrote down, our choices today affect our future. They do. It's not truly a one and done, like it never happened. It would, and some people don't like hearing this, but it would have given her a piece of me that you take on and into your future. You're going to have to navigate that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Morgan, any final thoughts before I share a couple other elements?
Well, I'm surprised she didn't yank you back into the elevator and slap a wet one on you.
Yeah, it's true. I would have said, away from me, woman!
We have a sleeping baby upstairs.
But I wanted to share, Morgan, because that story wasn't all that long.
Yes, share a little more about your modeling days.
Yeah. There were two other things that really jumped out to me for this, 4-day modeling conference in Los Angeles.
Okay.
One, I realized and again, guys, I hope that this is relatable. I think it will be. I realized that I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. When you are in certain environments, even if you have a conviction going in, whatever is normal around the environments you're in, the type of friendships that you hang out with, it can cause you to really question and even compromise your boundaries. And here's what I mean. Going into this week in Los Angeles, I had set a standard in my mind. I will not do any underwear modeling.
I'm glad that was my standard.
And you hear that, Morgan? But yeah, I know you can relate to this.
Yes, I can.
And so you're over here laughing at me.
No, I've never done underwear modeling, FYI.
But looking back on your modeling career, did you perhaps cross some stuff that you had in your mind?
Oh, definitely.
So my point is...
100%.
And here's,
that's another story time.
That's another story time. My point is, I went in, that was my standard. And then day one goes, you're just surrounded by people who are maybe dressed more edgy than you are. Mm-hmm. And it's just becoming normal. Day two, and then that picture you saw of me wearing the sick suit.
Yeah.
That sick designer suit.
Sick.
They picked maybe like 10 models to be in this special fashion show to kind of close out the week or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it was an honor to be picked.
Okay, were you picked?
Yes. So they're getting the models to the back.
Guy.
There's a special designer there who is fitting the models in his
underwear,
in his new line.
Got it.
So to speak. And then there's this guy that's in charge of the fashion show. You're kind of familiar with this. There's someone who's like, this is what I'm envisioning for this particular show.
Yes, the creative director.
The director. And suddenly I see them picking 4 or 5 guys to wear underwear in the fashion show. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to pick some to wear suits. And I'm waiting, and this is like tight boxer briefs, but it's pretty stinking revealing.
Underwear.
And I'm waiting to see, what are they going to put me in? And it's just going through my mind like a million miles an hour of, if I get chosen to wear underwear and I say no, like they could boot me from the show. Mm-hmm. This could hurt my chances. Who knows? Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I was like, it's only fashion. Other guys are wearing it. It's not inherently sexual. And I start justifying. And it was genuinely like like a tug of war in my mind.
Yeah.
And they ended up putting me in a suit, really cool suit. But I'm just being real. Like, had they said you're going to be wearing underwear, and they had like gold necklaces and stuff.
Oh, no.
I may have compromised. I may not have. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is very hard, I will say, when you are modeling and someone tells you to put something on, you're like, but I said that okay.
It's hard, dude. Again, that just goes, it just proves the principle, and there's the Bible verse, bad company corrupts good morals, which doesn't completely apply, but I think there's another verse that talks about who your friends are, like who your close friends are, and maybe it's just like a common phrase, but who you're going to become your closest friends, or the environment that you put yourself in. Unless you're just like really strong, which there are people that are able to go into those environments and be really strong. Jesus obviously was, but you better be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. Let this story be a encouragement and challenge to you all who have found yourselves in compromising situations to stand firm in your faith and know that, like we said earlier, the fleeting moment of satisfaction or the gratification of being chosen or blah blah blah, being seen by the world, is not worth it in the long run. And being obedient to your Heavenly Father is building up your treasures in heaven, is having a kingdom mindset, which is what we're called to have, rather than focusing our eyes on this earth. And maybe just don't get into modeling or acting or anything.
I would not want my daughter getting into modeling, and man,
I wouldn't want my son getting into modeling. You kidding me?
It's just one of those professions, and you have people that say like, oh no, Christians need to be in every profession. It's just a really difficult profession. Morgan, I got one more element from the conference.
Okay.
This one will be quick.
Okay.
Because I know we talk a decent amount about like celebrity Christians.
Mm-hmm.
We say like how hard it is, and I say, man, like I don't envy Justin Bieber or all these different people and just the world. Like they almost just have to completely leave that world. Mm-hmm. Because it sucks you back in and fame and stuff.
Yeah.
While we were at the conference, while I was at this conference, I remember maybe it was like day 2. And when you go to something like this, everything is just bigger and better and more awesome than normal life.
Yeah.
You're doing the catwalks. You got the judges over there and, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. I remember maybe it was like after day 2 and I also like performed a song because you're also like trying to see, could you go into acting as well? And so...
And singing and...
Yeah. And so I performed, I did Hero by Enrique Iglesias with the guitar.
Hero, baby.
But it was like as part of this bigger event. So like everyone was in the crowd and whatnot. Uh-huh. And it was like a pretty, you know, I got a decent voice. It ended up going over pretty well. But I remember like afterwards, like, so... It seemed at the time like lots of these girls were coming up. Can I get a picture with you? Blah, blah. And that was like the first time I felt like I really tasted that. Uh-huh. And I just remember the next day and even that night, it was like I know in my mind, Paul, like, don't get a big head. But I was like, and I was, it wasn't like I was like 12, you know, I was 20.
Right.
And I had tasted a little bit of the spotlight and it was getting to me so quickly. And I remember even praying that afternoon. I was like, all right, Paul, just, you know, go ahead and ground yourself. Let's get back to your roots. Uh-huh. Spend a little time in prayer. But I was like my head was in the clouds, dude. And just so all that to say, you guys, I genuinely don't know how anyone could have a ton of fame and not be.
Yeah, it's scary trying to find that balance. I do not know. That was one thing when I met you and you were doing the music in Miami and having some success with it. And I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe Morgan's the unusual one. But I think so many of us think we're the unusual one. Right. That can get famous. Oh, we're doing this to spread a good message. Mm-hmm. And in reality, like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like, even now, just with our platform here and, like, getting recognized out in public sometimes, and we're just like, what in the world?
What if that was, like, every day?
Like, this is so weird. Yeah, which, granted, if you see us out in public, please come say hey, because we love meeting you all. But, yeah, it is just interesting, like, how if we let it, it could really just blow our heads up.
I don't see how anyone does it. Maybe that's
staying humble.
We all have
people in your lives that tell you you're the worst.
And no, that is super important, I think. But I think we all have different propensities of like, this could be a bigger struggle in life or a bigger temptation. And I think it's just clear to me, like, I have to be so careful. God, you know. Yeah. I need to be so careful with that because I can so easily. Yeah. And I think most of us probably are in that boat. Guys, comment below. Hope you enjoyed Storytime with P&M. Today was kind of like a threefold story.
Yes, it was.
But I would be curious. Comment below if any of those things kind of resonated with you. I think it would be really cool and interesting in the comments to see your all's experiences or just if it resonated. Yes. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this story. We love you. We will catch you again very soon. Have hope.
And be free. If you're in the live chat, we'll be right back.
That's true. I got a laptop over here.
Paul's got the laptop, so we're counting on him.
As you may have noticed, we get very few brand deals, which is why our patrons, the names you see here, are so important.
You guys really are the lifeblood of this ministry. We could not do this without you all. If you believe in this content and you want to partner with us on Patreon, click the link below or just go to patreon.com/Paulandmorganshow.